ברוכים הבאים to our weekly show, Lecha Dodi. Today we'll be speaking about a woman that has to go to labor. She's pregnant, she has to go, and it happened to be that it's on Shabbat, or she has to prepare beforehand for Shabbat. Now the question is, what does she need to do exactly, what the halacha requires from her, and how do you prepare and what do you do on Shabbat? So to start off, we need to know first of all that there's such a thing today that they induce labors, and the poskim speak very harshly about inducing labor for no real needed reason. If it's not a medical reason, one is not allowed to induce labor. But Moshe Feinstein explains nicely in Igrot Moshe, he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu really protects the pregnancy with the labor when it comes naturally, because the whole thing is it comes with a protection min hashamayim. Otherwise, it's not explained how could a woman go through such pain and such a delivery and everything is fine afterwards. And it's almost unheard of a woman that really dies at labor. It's not very common, and therefore we see there's a protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a heavenly shmirah to that woman in labor. But that is all true when things are happening naturally. But when something is done unnaturally, for instance, this inducing labor, says Moshe Feinstein that the protection is not there anymore, and it's pretty dangerous. So therefore he says it's not allowed to induce the labor. This is how also many other poskim bring down, Rav Eliashiv, Rav Menashe Klein. It's brought down, Yitzchak Zilberstein, Torah Yoledet, right in the beginning, and really, it's already brought down in the Akdama of the Raavad to Sefer Yetzirah. He says the following lashon: Hinei haleda bekoach Hashem, ki hu hamatir chevlei leda. You need to know that labor is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He's the one, and only Him, that opens up the womb of a woman. צריך אתה לדעת כי באותו רגע שאישה יולדת למטה, הנשמה נשלמת מלמעלה. Unbelievable, beautiful words from the Raavad. He says that as soon as a woman gives birth, at that very moment, the neshama of that baby attaches to his body at heaven. הנשמה נשלמת מלמעלה. משם תקבל כל העתידות לבוא עליו. Right then and there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides what this baby is going to be like. As the Gemara says, that whether it would be rich or poor, it would be smart or not, it would be gibor, strong, or it would be weak. All those things are decided. Although the Gemara seems to say that that's done 40 yom achar yetzirat havlad, but over here the Raavad says misham tekabel kol ha'atidot lavo alav. However, this will be defined. ולפיכך ראוי לך להתבונן כי המוליד בנים בשם, ירצה לומר, כותב קמי על המקשה המולידה טרם זמן איתה, פעמים שורק שתי נפשות ופעמים שגורם לנולד ימים רעים וצרות משונות זו מזו, ואלוקים יבקש דמו. Which means some people make a certain segula or certain kamiya, all kind of things, or as he speaks over here, molid b'shem, they use shemot HaKodesh in order for the baby to come out earlier. That's not allowed. He says that sometimes, since it's not the moment that the neshama should attach, and since we believe that in the time that a baby is born, the constellation at that time affect the future of the baby in many different ways, as the Gemara explained at the end of Masechet Shabbat. So therefore, because of that, if he's born not at the right time that should be, then the neshama gets all kind of different future for that baby, and that's not healthy. Sometimes it causes the baby, says the Raavad, to have terrible days, and sometimes it kills both the baby and the mother, and whoever does such a thing, Elokim damo yevakesh, he is negligent, and he will pay for it. This is how the Raavad says, and keep on going with that. So therefore one needs to know, first of all, that inducing labor is not permitted for no reason, unless there's a danger to the baby or to the mother. Then, if the doctor tells you that he sees that it needs to be induced, if the doctor recommends it, not for his own comfort, not because he wants to go to a vacation, not because the mother and the father would love to have the brit on a Sunday, rather a different day, or they like to get it over with, or any other reason like that, rather he sees medically it's the correct thing to do, then it will be permitted, as it's brought down in some of the Gdolei Ador. The Keilot Yaakov says such a thing, and the Torat HaYoledet, Rav Zilberstein, brings that lehalacha. Also, when we see that the labor takes a very long time, and her doctor, her specific doctor that she wants him to deliver, can't stay any longer. That's it. He's getting very tired. He wants to leave. We see that he's not going to stay and somebody else will take his place, and you're afraid that maybe you're not going to get the same treatment, the same professional treatment as her private doctor. So therefore, for that would be also permitted to induce the labor, because you see that the doctor is getting tired and he wants to leave, and you want to have specifically this doctor. And under that goes any other reason that you see that it's for the reason of delivery would be preferable to have the delivery induced. But otherwise, as we explained before, not for comfort reasons, as having the delivery early so to get it over with, for financial reasons, or for having the brit at that time, or the family wants to come only at a certain time to visit, and otherwise they'll leave the place, and so on and so forth. For all these reasons, would not be permitted. Now, when one prepares for the delivery before Shabbat, you don't know. The woman is already on the 8th, the 9th month, and you never know what day the contractions will start, and you're afraid that it might be on Shabbat. So therefore, when it gets to the time that you might see that the woman might give birth, you have to do some preparations. What are they? First of all, it's much more comfortable to have a taxi driving you to the hospital than to drive yourself. The reason for that is very simple. If you have to drive yourself, although it might be permitted halachically to drive because a yoledet is bichlal pikuach nefesh, which means she's also considered somebody who's under danger, and you would be allowed to drive her to the hospital just like you're allowed to assist anybody who's in danger, and that would be permitted. But once you reach the hospital and she can come out of the car, then you're stuck with a car that's on, and you're not allowed to shut off the engine, and you're not allowed to look for parking, and so on and so forth. So you come into a situation that's very uncomfortable. If you had to do it, so you just leave the car on, you go inside, and you hope that one of the people around the hospital that work in the hospital would take the car and park it for you. But otherwise, you can't do anything with the car. You have to leave it where it is. And therefore, it would be much preferable to have a taxi taking you. Now, how do you prepare a taxi beforehand? Before Shabbat, call up the taxi of your choice that you choose that he should take you to the hospital. Should not be a Jewish taxi driver, although they don't keep Shabbat, but you can't use a Jew to drive you on Shabbat. Some argue on that point, because they say, on the contrary, since he's driving anyway, now that he's driving for a mitzvah to bring the yoledet into the hospital, at least at that time he's not violating Shabbat. But it's better to still call a goy taxi driver, because we're going to need some things from him to help us out, to assist us. Like, for instance, when he comes to the house on Shabbat, we will ask him to open the door for us so the light doesn't go on, to close the car door for us so the light doesn't turn off, to take the bag that a woman needs to take with her from the house to the taxi, to take and pick up the money, and so on. And therefore, it's much better if one can call that taxi company before Shabbat and arrange things with them, that they should come on Shabbat if they need it. It's better that if you can give them your credit card number or pay them in other means before Shabbat, just in case. And also you give a certain amount of tip to the driver, so when he comes on Shabbat, he will be willing to assist you with all that you're asking extra from him. But if you didn't do any of that, it's enough that you called up the taxi beforehand, you find out how much is the charge. Let's say it's $15 to get to the hospital. You prepare that $15 close to the doors in the envelope, and you put in there some tip, again, so the driver would feel more willing to help and assist you. Now, once you find out how much it is and you prepare the envelope, try to call that taxi right before Shabbat. So on Shabbat, you don't have to dial all the numbers, but rather you just redial and it goes automatically. Now, one should also prepare together with the bag that for all the things that the woman needs at the time of delivery. Also, the ID and insurance card and whatever's needed for the delivery. You're not allowed to prepare things that you don't need. You only can take with you things that are needed at the time, but you can't take in that bag that you take into the hospital, for instance, all kind of sidur or sgulot, all kind of sfarim like the Noam Elimelech. You can't put it in your bag and carry it for a sgula. You can't take your telephone, you can't take makeup, you can't take your wallet and so on. Only things that are really needed, like we explained, medicine that the woman needs, ID, her robe that she really wouldn't feel comfortable without it, and things that really, really needed. And you ask the taxi driver when he comes that he should open the door, as we explained, open the door of the taxi, take the bag, put it in the taxi, and pick up the envelope that you left for him. And with that, you go into the taxi, and that will take care of that. You're not allowed to leave children at home alone. You have to arrange before Shabbat what you do with your children if you'll have to go on Shabbat to the hospital. That's not allowed to leave him alone, and it's dangerous, and we don't need to get into that in details how bad it is. So therefore, either you leave your baby or your children by a neighbor or by somebody close, and if you don't have any of those arrangements, you would have to take them to somebody with a car. Now, if the goy can drive those kids, let's say you're taking a taxi, so on the way to the hospital, he should drive them to your in-laws, to your parents, to your sister, to somebody that's willing to have those kids. Even if you're taking an ambulance like Hatzalah, Rav Elyashiv says that they should be taken and not be obviously left alone at the house. If you can't do any of those arrangements, Rav Wosner, it brought down in Torah Yoledet, says that even the father himself can drive the kids while he's taking his wife to the hospital, if she's going with the ambulance, whatever it is, he would have to drive them to the parents or wherever it is in order to be able to join together with his wife to the hospital, and this way you'll take care of the kids. Now, since going to dealing with a yoledet, as we explained before, a woman in labor is classified as chole sheyesh bo sakana, which Shabbat must be violated to help her in all that she needs. There's different levels of cholim in the halacha. There's somebody that has a michush, some kind of pain in the body, like a headache, that there, the Chachamim said you're not allowed to take for that medicine, and you're not allowed to get medical attention, as long as it's just mild pain. But once it gets to extreme pain or a sickness that's not under danger, so then he could take medicine. How do you know what's the line that you cross that you can take medicine? The halacha says in Shin Kaf Chet, if you feel that you have to lie down because of the headache or whatever hurts you, then you're considered already chole she'en bo sakana. Today we are dealing with chole sheyesh bo sakana. A woman in delivery is a chola sheyesh ba sakana. She has danger. Danger, then all the Torah kula is now permitted for such a chola, except the 3 averot chamurot, but Shabbat must be violated for such a woman. Although the halacha says in Shin Lamed Seif Aleph that she's a yoledet, and a yoledet should try to do beshinui, unlike any other chole sheyesh bo sakana, a yoledet should do things not the normal way. She should do things different than the regular, because, says the halacha, says the Gemara, since a woman in labor is something normal, and therefore it's unlikely she'll really have that, although she's considered right now in danger, but that the danger should come about and something would happen to her, it's unlikely, because it's normal for a woman to be in labor. Because of that, she should do beshinui. But the Or LeTzion explains and this is also how Chacham Ovadia posek, that is true only at the time of the delivery. While she's at the room of the delivery, then shinui should be done if it's possible to do. When it's not possible, things should do regularly. But if it's possible to do things b'shinui, at that time they should be done b'shinui. But beforehand, while she needs to get to the hospital, everything up to the time she really in delivery, things should be done naturally without doing any shinui. Now that is a machloket Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. The Shulchan Aruch brings down in Shin Kafret that according to Sfaradim, anything for pikuach nefesh should not be done b'shinui whatsoever. You don't do anything b'shinui, rather you do them naturally, normally. And the Ramah argues on that and says that if you're not going to be delayed in any way, so then you're allowed and you should do things b'shinui, which means either with a goy, let's say, if you don't lose any time, why don't you do with a goy, says the Ramah. Or if you're not going to lose any time and you can press the button b'shinui, not with your finger, rather with the elbow, whatever it is, or whatever does the work b'shinui and doesn't take any more time, says the Ramah, why don't you do it that way? It's better. But according to Sfaradim, according to Shulchan Aruch, it's not needed at all. One does things regularly without a shinui. And on that we have a machloket, the Chazon Ovadia and Or Letzion. What happens if it's things that are not at the time of, or at the things that helps the person in the danger, which means, let's say you need to call the hospital or call for the sick person, you need to call the ambulance or things like that. It's not assisting him right then and there, it's just preparing the assistance. So then, says Chacham Ovadia, for such a thing it's better to do b'shinui, or they should do two people together. When you do them together, let's say you have to pick up the phone. So if two people pick it up together, then Chacham Ovadia says in Chazon Ovadia that since the Gemara Shabbat Tzadik Gimel says Shnaim Shasu Pturim, when two people do together a violation of Shabbat, it's not as severe, the patur, they're not getting punished from that midoraita, rather it's only a violation of the Rabbanan. That's what should be done. Or Letzion argues on that. He says, no, everything should be done without a shinui. Even the preparation like that should not be done b'shinui. But otherwise, Chacham Ovadia agrees and he says that it's asur to even do b'shinui, which means if we're dealing not with the preparation, rather taking care of the person that is sick, b'choleh she'esh bo sakana, or the woman in delivery, so he says in Yabi'a Omer Chelek Yud that it's asur leshanot bepikuach nefesh. Why? So people would not say that for pikuach nefesh it's not allowed to violate the Shabbat, and therefore people would take that lenient and would be mitrashel badavar. They would not do it correctly, and therefore because of that, one should not do any shinui at the time of the service. This is also how the Nishmat Avraham says in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach that there's a difference between taking care at the time of at the time of taking care of the person himself, then shinui should not be done. But whatever you do for preparation, if you can without losing any time, one should try to do it b'shinui. But again, Or Letzion says no difference whatsoever. Now, when we're dealing with pikuach nefesh, we need to mention the words of the Rambam. The Rambam says about choleh sheyesh bo sakana, he says that mitzvah min Torah lechalel alav Shabbat. The Torah commands us to violate the Shabbat for such a choleh sheyesh bo sakana. שאין לך דבר עומד בפני פיקוח נפש, והשבת דחויה היא לעניין פיקוח נפש כשאר כל המצוות. Just like all the mitzvot are pushed to the side when we're dealing with life danger, so does the Shabbat when it comes to life danger. We're not allowed to keep Shabbat at the account of somebody who's in danger. Why? Because it says in the Torah, ושמרתם את כל חוקותיי אשר יעשה אותם האדם וחי בהם. All those laws that we have to keep, all the Torah mitzvot, are only on the account that it's v'chai b'hem, that a person should live with them, and not v'lo she'amud b'hem, and not if you see that a person might die because of them. And therefore, when it comes to Shabbat, it's not any different, says the Rambam, and one is obligated to violate the Shabbat to save a life. ואסור להתמהמה, says the Ramban. One is not allowed to delay in any possible way בחילול שבת לחולה שיש בו סכנה. Why? Says the Rambam, a beautiful עניין, and he says שאין משפטי התורה אלא רחמים וחסד ושלום בעולם. The laws of the Torah, the משפטים of the Torah, are mercy, are chesed, helpful for everybody. They come to spread peace, shalom ba'olam, and therefore Shabbat should be pushed out at the time of danger. והמינים שאומרים שזה חילול שבת, ואסור, those מינים, those אפיקורסים that say you're not allowed to violate the Shabbat for any reason, you should know that on them the pasuk says, גם אני נתתי להם חוקים ומשפטים לא יחיו בהם. The Rambam reads on them such a pasuk that they are incorrect, their laws are not correct, and therefore הזריז לחלל שבת במקום פיקוח נפש הרי זה משובח. One needs to know that at the time of פיקוח נפש you must violate any Shabbat just to save that life. So now a person is allowed definitely to first call the doctor in order to make sure that it's time to go to the hospital, and if the doctor says it's time to go to the hospital, he directs when one should go to the hospital, the best thing to do, as we explained right now, is to call the taxi. But if you couldn't call the taxi, or the taxi is not coming on time, they tell you to be there in half an hour, and you really don't want to wait that time, you feel that you don't have the ability to wait that time, even if you're doubtful, you have a safek, you shouldn't go, you shouldn't hesitate, and you should go yourself, because in pikuach nefesh, even a doubt, even a safek, we take that as a serious thing, and we go to the hospital, and we do whatever needs to be done, because in pikuach nefesh, safek is considered like the pikuach nefesh is in front of us, and therefore you need to go to the hospital with your car. And the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata brings down that you will be able to take with you also your license. Why? Because if a cop will stop you on the way and ask you for your license and you don't have it, everything will be delayed. So therefore, because of that, you'll be allowed to take with you your license. It's permitted to go to a far hospital, although you have a hospital very close. But if your doctor that you're seeing is in a far hospital, you should go over there, or any hospital that you feel give you a better treatment, definitely one should go there. Now, when is it that one should feel that he can call the taxi or take the car and drive to the hospital? So over here you'll have a few different instances that one should take action. One is, first of all, the concern of the baby. Let's say you're not feeling a heartbeat, just like on a regular day. If you don't feel a heartbeat of the baby, you'll be concerned and you go to check it out in the hospital or by the doctor. So is here not any different on Shabbat. If you feel that there's no heartbeat, the Torah Teoled of Yitzchak Zilberstein says that you should go to the hospital. Or if you see that there's no movement of the baby, you see that for a while nothing's doing. So usually what the doctors say is that a woman should drink something with some sugar, like orange juice, and lie down and try to see if the baby starts moving. That usually causes the baby to move. If nothing's happening, you want to go right away to the hospital. You don't know what's the reason. If there's no movement, sometimes it could be something dangerous, the cord around the neck, or whatever it is. So therefore, one should go to the hospital to concern of the baby as well. If the woman feels that she might be already in delivery, the contraction starts getting serious. Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein says either 15 to 20 minutes apart, that's already a sign of delivery. The contractions are getting to be consistent, and therefore one should really take that serious. So one should call his doctor and find out whatever the doctor instructs the woman to do, that's what she should do. If he tells her to go in 10 minutes apart, that's when she should pick up and go. Tells her 20 minutes apart, that's when she should pick up and go. Usually on the first delivery it would take much longer, and they would tell the woman to stay a little bit more at the house rather to go to the hospital, but the other deliveries already would be much more likely to go quicker. And therefore, when you have steady contractions, as we explained, she should go. In a case that she's on the way and the contractions already on the way, stopping, and now everything is back to normal, what should you do? So should you go back? Should you stop? Some poskim say that you can't anymore drive. If you're with a taxi driver, tell them to stop right then. But the halacha is like of Moshe Steinbuch writes in Torat HaYoledet, that they should actually continue driving and go to the hospital and check it out. Because if she had such contractions, even if they stop, it needs to be checked out in the hospital where she's standing, how's the baby's doing, if everything is okay, and she should not hesitate and continue. If a woman feels that the labor is starting, that's also another reason to go, although there's no one of those signs that we explained. But if a woman has her own feeling, especially if it's not her first delivery, she feels, I feel like it's the time that that delivery is coming close, she should definitely go then. Also, another instance would be if the water broke and they're coming out, the plug came out, is still not a sign, but if the water comes out, that's already something that you should take serious, because normally after the water come out, the contraction starts becoming hard, and time is right now in essence, and she should go right away. If she feels very, very strong pressure, says the Torat HaYoledet, also that's something that's unnormal, not the regular pressure, rather much stronger. That's also a reason to go. Obviously, in that case, you should call the doctor and find out what he suggests. If there's bleeding, not only minor spotting, there's strong bleedings, that's also another reason. Or she's not feeling well. She's not feeling well as something that's starting, she should go. Once she gets to the hospital, she should at that time make sure that if they need any of the paperwork, if possible, to prepare before Shabbat and give them everything that's needed so you don't need to sign. Normally in most hospitals, they would not ask you to sign on Shabbat. They respect our religion and they would not ask you. And even if they ask you, you tell them that you don't sign, it's Shabbat, you'll sign after Shabbat, they would respect that. But in a case or a place that they wouldn't, then you'll be able to sign on Shabbat those papers. We explained before that you have to prepare your bag and put in the bag whatever you will need for the delivery. Now, whatever you put for the delivery, it's not that you can put over there whatever you want, as we explained before. You can put inside the bag makeup, you can put a siddur, you can put your tefillin. That's not things that are needed at that time. Whatever's really needed for that delivery that would assist the woman, then those things she should take. Now, she should not, as we explained before, carry that bag herself, rather ask the goy to take it to the car. But if you don't have a goy that's going to carry it to the car, let's say he's not willing, or you're not taking a goy, you don't have the time, you want to go yourself. Obviously, everything that we're saying is when you have time, but if you see that time is on essence and you see that you might not be able to wait, you should go yourself. And therefore, how should you take that bag? If really you don't have that time, do whatever's needed. But if you have a little bit time, so what needs to be done is take the bag right away from the house to the car without stopping in the middle. That's like from Reshut HaYachid LeReshut HaYachid Derech Reshut HaRabim, that according to most poskim, it's not Isur Deoraita. Even more so if the middle is not Reshut HaRabim, rather it's a Carmelit. Definitely that's the way it should be done. This is how the Torat HaYoledet brings down. If you have a little bit more time and you have a minor child under bar mitzvah that's not your child, you can ask him to take it. If it's your child, then you are mechuyav, you have a mitzvah in the Torah that to make sure that your child doesn't do any of the melachot for you. So it's not any difference whether your child does it or you. Rather, you should ask a child that's not your child, and that's better than doing it yourself. If that's not possible, so you take it on a normal, regular way, b'shinui, which means you take it from the house, although you'll have to stop in the Reshut Arabim or in the Carmelit or whatever it is, but do it b'shinui, which means you carry the bag not the normal way. Instead of, for instance, carry it with your hands, you put it on your shoulder if that's not the normal way, or you drag it on the floor if it's not very heavy, and that way you'll take it to the car. Or, as we explained before, two people should carry it together. If two people carry it together, that's fine. If a person he wants to take, the person that's coming with the wife wants to take some things for himself, that's not permitted. You can't take your cell phone, you can't take a sefer on Shabbat that you'll be able to learn Gemara or say Tehillim while your wife is in delivery. That's not permitted to violate the Shabbat for those things. But if you think that it might take a very long time and you're not going to have anything to eat in that hospital, they don't have anything kosher, and you're not going to be able to eat anything, so Yitzchak Zilberstein writes in Torah Te'oledet that you permitted to take food with you with the goy carrying it to the car, and obviously when you get to the hospital, from the car to the hospital, if you don't have that, we can do the suggestions we said before, that you take it from the house to the car without stopping, or you're doing it b'shinui, as we explained before, you're dragging it. Now, when a person goes to the hospital and the wife needs some help and she needs somebody to come with her, now it doesn't mean that she needs physical help. Many times she just needs somebody to be with her, because for women it's very traumatic, this whole experience, especially on the first delivery, but even afterwards. So therefore they need the support of the husband. Sometimes they'll need more than the husband's support. They'll need also that her mother should come together with her. And according to the Chazon Ish, he writes in a letter in Igeret, he writes that he would encourage people to take also somebody with her. He says the Lashon in Igeret Kuf Mem Aleph, Mezarez ani she'is'u ima, should not go alone. And not only that, matir, he would be matir, he would permit, if she's not relaxed, she's not calm, to take with her also the husband and her mother. She should not go alone, and it's permitted to go with her, although the Or LeTzion says that if the wife doesn't ask for somebody to come with her, so you don't have to suggest it, you don't go with her, this is how the Or LeTzion says, because she doesn't feel the need for it, so she can go herself. But Chacham Ovadia writes, and this is also how the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata writes, that no, the husband must go together with her, and it's important that you go with her. And the fact that she's not asking could be that she doesn't want that he should come with her because she thinks it might be a violation of Shabbat for him to come with her to the hospital. But on the contrary, he should go with her, and if she feels that she needs more than just him, as we explained before, there are room to allow also her mother to come with her. If they got to the hospital and it happened to be that the doctor says it's a false labor, nothing's happening, nothing's doing, go back home. So, although it's the beginning of Shabbat, and right now, how she's going to go home? She has to take a car home. She can't walk home, it's not a block or 2 blocks away. So what should she do? Since it's very uncomfortable staying in a hospital, also could be that there's all kind of germs in the hospital, it's not the place to be. And even if they're giving her a room over there, but a woman that's really on the 9th month needs her comfort, and it's very, very uncomfortable, the halacha permits her to go back home with a goy taxi. And you pay him after, before, whatever it is, you pay him. Today there's different means of how to pay the Uber, if it could be done not by the person himself, rather somebody else that would invite the Uber driver for her, and she could go back with that goy driver home. If the husband is together with her, the halacha would permit him to join as well, unless it's very close by and it's a walking distance, he should walk himself, but otherwise he should go with her. So at the time that a woman feels that it's getting serious, she should not hesitate in any way, as we're explaining right now, and she should definitely take that the phone or whatever is needed, call the doctor, call the hospital, arrange everything on Shabbat itself without hesitation, and go and make sure that she has a safe delivery without hesitation, and Be'ezrat Hashem, with that, all will come out to the place is good.